Well, here we are again. And today I would like to tell you a few stories. And I just want to say that these stories go back a long time. And I've never told these stories to anyone until I think it was three weeks ago. And I told these stories to a friend of mine, but that was the first time. Anyway, before I tell these stories, I think I have to tell you a little bit of um, a background of how these stories came about. And it was over 30 years ago now when like, I'm an alcoholic, and you know that. Uh, but anyway, this was the time when I finally admitted I was an alcoholic, and I had tried everything to stop, and I couldn't. I just couldn't. So anyway, I was really scared, and so I drove my car to a quiet place, and I talked, and I had this planned out, and I talked to my higher power, and I cried, and I was very passionate, uh, and I just said, look, I've got this problem. I'm an alcoholic, and I can't stop. I've tried everything, so you got to help me out here because I can't do it alone. And if you don't help me, then my life is ruined. I'm going to die. And so anyway, and I remember saying, I said, you can do whatever you want to, or whatever you have to, but I give you carte blanche, but because I got to stop this or I'm finished. So anyway, when I remember driving away, I kind of felt like this weight had been lifted from me. I turned it over, like they say in AA. But anyway, um, so that was what happened. And the first story happened 2 days later. 2 days later, after I talked with my higher power. I was in a church, and at that time, and I refer to it now sometimes as the crazy church because it was crazy in a lot of ways. There was good things about it, but there was also the bad things about it. But anyway, two kind of overweight, kind of intimidating ministers came to visit me, and they kicked me out of the church. And I hadn't done anything, but like I said, it was a crazy church, and they did this sort of thing. But anyway, I was really, upset by that. And but as they were leaving, one of the ministers said to me, they said, "I give you one chance out of two to make it." See, we had this kind of concept that if we lived a good life and we could make it into the kingdom. So anyway, he was giving me one chance out of two. So anyway, as 6 months went by, and I stopped drinking, but my life was going down the rabbit hole. My first wife had left me by this time, and I was really depressed. But I was trying so hard to do well, and there was one weekend I remember in the summer, and I did a 3 day fast. That means 3 days without water or anything to eat, to draw close to your higher power and to try and find out how to be a better person. So anyway, at the end of that 3 day fast, I called the head honcho, one of these ministers, and he was just pissed off at me. I hadn't done anything, and I don't remember why, but he was pissed off. And at the end of a short conversation, he said, "I give you one chance out of 1,000 to make it." So now I was really going down the tubes. And I was a believer. So, I mean, this was really, you know, hurtful, a hurtful time for me. So I really went through a serious time of depression. And I think it was about 4 or 5 months later. For the last time, I called this minister, and he was still pissed off at me. And we had a short conversation. He said, "Look, don't call us again. We're busy. We don't have time for the likes of you. And just by the way, I give you one chance in a million to make it." So now I was really in big trouble. And I just might mention that I'm kind of smiling and laughing as I'm telling this story. But I mean, it wasn't funny at the time. But, uh, but anyway, so guess what? That night, I was living in this crummy basement apartment, and I had this little rickety bed, and I knelt down beside it. And I talked to my higher power and I said, look, you've got to help me out here. One chance in a million. That's almost impossible. But I want to go for it. I want to go for my one chance in a million. You got to help me because I can't do it alone. And every day I would ask for the same thing, for my one chance in a million. Anyway, I guess it was, and I wasn't drinking. And I think it was about a year later, and I still wasn't drinking. I'd stopped drinking. And this minister, the head honcho, he said in front of hundreds of people, I guess he came to realize that he was wrong about me. And he said he realized that if he didn't let me back into the church, he was going to have trouble with the man upstairs. So anyway, and this guy couldn't have done enough for me. I mean, he embraced me. He became my buddy. He involved me with everything. And as long as he was 100% behind me, I was golden. Now, the second story I want to tell you happened a little bit more recently, I guess about 6 or 7 years ago. And I was married to a beautiful, lovely woman for 21 years. And they were the best years of my life, quite frankly, until now, of course. And we got along so great. We loved each other and we respected each other. And it was just beautiful. And one day out of the blue, she decided she was going to leave me, and she did. And it was so sudden. And I was just in shock, absolute shock. But it wasn't like we were mad at each other. I mean, I helped her move and everything like that. And we kept in touch. And one day, I think it was about a month later, I was over at her place and I just asked her, I said, is there any chance that you might consider coming back? And she said, no, there was no chance. There might be one chance in a million. You guessed it. So that night, I knelt down and I talked to my higher power and I said, look, I mean, it's almost impossible. I mean, one chance in a million. I mean, she's not coming back, but still, I want to go for it. That one chance in a million. And you got to help me out here because I can't do it alone. And besides that, this is our specialty. This is what we do. One chance in a million is our specialty. So let's go for it. And every day, of course, I would ask for my one chance in a million. So guess what? I think it was about 2 months later, and she came back. Now, that only lasted for, I think it was 9 months, and then she left for good. But I mean, she came back. So the reason I'm telling you these stories is because what I've learned is that no matter what happens, never, 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 never give up. Never, never give up. That's one thing I've learned. And I just the other day I had the TV on and I heard from CAMH, and they said that in the world every year 800,000 people commit suicide. I mean, it's amazing how many people give up. But one thing I've learned, and I learned something from Marcus Aurelius in this regard, and he said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, we have to go through it. We have to go through the pain. And this is such a big part of addiction and I know this for myself, is we don't want to go through the pain. We want to go around it. So, we use, whether it's alcohol or drugs or shopping or sex or gambling, we try and go around the pain, avoid the pain. And it just doesn't work. We have to go through the pain. And the same is true with depression and anxiety. And I'm just so glad I went through that pain, because having gone through that pain, I wouldn't be the person I am now. I wouldn't have the wisdom, the understanding, the compassion. I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't gone through that pain. So I love these stories now. They're beautiful stories, and I embrace them, and I'm going to share them with people and to encourage them never, never, never to give up. And one thing that I like, and I call it the gospel according to Rocky Balboa. And Rocky said, "Let me tell you something you already know. Life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a mean and it's a nasty place. And I don't care how tough you are, it'll bring you to your knees and it'll keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, nobody ain't gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can take getting hit and keep going forward. It's about how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done." And Rocky, you're absolutely right. That's how winning is done. So these, and we become better people as a result of going through the hard times. There was a beautiful piece from The Sound of Music, and I hadn't listened to it a long time ago, but I read it just a few days ago. And it's beautiful, but it's kind of like something we can reflect on when we're going through a tough time. And it's, when you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. And you're not alone. And that's why I do peer support groups, because you're not alone and we're together and we get together with other people and we encourage each other and we know what it feels like. And just another quote that in this area, Martin Luther King said, "If you can fly, fly. But if you can't fly, run. And if you can't run, walk. And if you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you got to keep moving." And that's what I'm trying to say to you. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. And just like the song from The Sound of Music, the sun does also rise. If the sun also rises, and I am just so glad that I never gave up. And that was one thing that was always with me. Never, 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 never give up. And I just want to say that what I do now is help people to understand that. And in my workshops and in my presentations and in my peer support work, I show people, I try and inspire people uh, to see what's available, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There always is. And so this is just kind of like the skinny on never, never, never giving up, because I want to show you the way of how to never give up. And that's the important thing. And just like I say at the end of the podcast, never, never, never give up, but always, always, always question and seek whatever you can. Never stop looking, and always take the high road, no matter how many people, no matter what people say to you, no matter how bad it looks. Always take the high road. And the most important thing, and what I teach, what is the essence of all my peer support work, is that your destiny is a choice that only you can make. And you can be happier than you ever dreamed possible. You can overcome anything. You can climb mountains. And I know this to be true. And my position is to help you. That is my purpose in life.